thank you to Senator Bernie Sanders for accommodating my schedule change and doing Brunch with Bernie with us today, right now. Bernie, welcome.
Good to be with you, Tom.
Thank you, and thank you for putting up with my long preface there. Sorry. A lot going on in the Senate, a lot going on in your world there. You want to share with us what's up?
There is a great deal that's going on. Let me begin by saying, and I think you mentioned this in your earlier comments, that as a nation we are making progress in a number of areas, and we should be very proud of the progress that we're making. Rhode Island now becomes the 10th state to approve gay marriage. Vermont did it a number of years ago. We take it for granted now that we have an African-American president of the United States. 20 or 30 years ago, Tom, you and I would never have believed that would have happened in our lifetime. We're making progress in that area. We're seeing more and more women being elected to national office in the Senate and the House, state legislatures. And while the assaults against women's right to choose continues and intensifies, and another area in terms of occupational opportunities, political leadership, women are making real progress. So there's a lot of good news out there. I think what we should be mindful of is that while that is happening, there is some bad news. And the bad news centers on the fact that economically, as a nation, we are in many respects moving in exactly the wrong way. And that is that study after study continues to tell us that the middle class is shrinking. People on the top are doing phenomenally well. And unemployment is not really at the official 7.6% level, but is much closer to 14% if you count those people who have given up looking for work and are working part-time. Just the other day, the Pew Research Center came out with a report in terms of distribution of wealth, where they said that between 2009 and 2011, all of the new wealth generated in this country during that period went to the top 7%, while the bottom 93% of Americans saw a net reduction in their wealth. So all of the new wealth went to the people in the top 7%. What we know is between 2009 and 2011, all of the new income went to the top 1%. All the new income generated went to the top 1%. So we are looking at a situation where Wall Street and large corporations are in many ways experiencing record-breaking profits, while tens and tens and tens of millions of families, people listening to this show right now, are trying to figure out how they're going to fill up their gas tank, the amount of money that they need to fill up their gas tank to get to work, how they're going to pay for their kid to go to the dentist, how they can afford to send their kids to college, in some cases, how they're going to pay the rent or the mortgage or feed their families. So on one hand, as a nation, in terms of social issues, we're making some progress. On the other hand, in terms of economic issues, we are in many ways losing ground, and in my view, moving to an oligarchic form of society where a few people on the top have incredible wealth and incredible power, while the people at the bottom have neither. One of the issues that we are working on right now is the issue of trying to end the sequestration. And we're seeing the problems of sequestration being manifested now in air travel because we have to furlough some of the air control people, meaning delays in flights. But it's not only air traffic. It is kids being thrown off of the Head Start program, people losing very basic benefits, cutbacks in unemployment insurance, and so forth and so on. The solution, in my view, to that issue is to end sequestration, which everybody acknowledges is a terrible way to do deficit reduction, and in fact move toward an agreement on the budget, which must include substantial new revenue coming from large corporations who today, in some cases, do not pay a nickel in taxes. I was on the floor yesterday just talking about some of these companies. Let me give you and the listeners just a few examples of some of the outrages that currently exist within our tax system. Just a few. Bank of America. Now, you remember our friends at Bank of America, we bailed them out 5 years ago. In 2010, Bank of America set up more than 200 subsidiaries in the Cayman Islands to avoid paying U.S. taxes. What do we think about that? Large, profitable Wall Street firm, 200 subsidiaries in the Cayman Islands, don't pay any taxes. And not only in recent years did they not pay any federal income taxes, but they received a rebate from the IRS worth $1.9 billion. J.P. Morgan Chase in 2010, J.P. Morgan Chase operated 83 subsidiaries incorporated in offshore tax havens to avoid paying $4.9 billion in U.S. taxes. Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, General Electric. During the last 5 years, GE made $81 billion in profits. Not only did they avoid paying federal income taxes during these years, they received a tax rebate of $3 billion. How's that? Pretty good deal?
Good work if you can get it.
Good. And these guys, of course, all of these huge multinational corporations, Wall Street firms, have hundreds of well-paid accountants to figure out ways that these guys can avoid paying taxes. And then on the other hand, they have spending billions of dollars collectively in lobbying to make sure that these loopholes exist. Bottom line here is that before we cut Social Security, as some people want to do, cut programs and benefits for disabled vets, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, education, nutrition programs, before we do those things, I think it makes a little bit more sense to end the absurdity of 1 out of 4 corporations pay nothing in taxes and end these loopholes by which these large, very profitable multinationals avoid paying anything, and in some cases actually getting rebates from the IRS. So that is one of the issues that we are focusing on right now. As I think many listeners know, the immigration bill is going to come to the floor probably in another week. I am a strong believer that we have got to grant the path towards citizenship for those people in this country now, but I do worry about the guest worker program and flooding this country with low-wage workers at a time when wages are going down for American workers.
We'll be back with your questions for Senator Bernie Sanders in our national town hall meeting. Brunch with Bernie, a day early, here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Yeah, we're live. It's Thursday. It's 16 minutes past 3 o'clock on the Eastern Coast.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. You can sign up for his newsletter. It's a great news site in and of itself. Welcome back. And Gary in Chicago, Illinois, watching on Free Speech TV. Gary, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator, is it pure greed? Is it a motivation factor to cutting CPI? And do you think that pure greed turns into a lack of consciousness, that the GOP seems to have?
Lack of conscience, you mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Gary, I think that's exactly right. What ends up happening, for whatever reason, and I'm not a psychoanalyst here or a psychiatrist, but these guys believe that there is no end to what they should have. So you have a situation now where the top 1% owns 38% of the nation's wealth, while the bottom 60% owns 2.3% of the nation's wealth, but that's not enough for them. And what really gets me is not only are these CEOs making huge salaries, not only do they have huge compensation packages and retirement programs, they have the chutzpah, they have the nerve through the Business Roundtable to come to Washington and say, you know what, we want you in Congress to raise the retirement age for Social Security and for Medicare to 70. We want you to cut back through the chain CPI on Social Security benefits for the elderly and benefits for disabled veterans. So these guys are motivated by greed. They think they have some kind of divine right to rule. They could care less that we got millions of kids in this country living in poverty, people having a hard time affording housing or the most basic needs. And they want more and more and more for themselves. And I think it is greed. And then what you do is you throw ideology on top of the greed, which says that somehow it really is a wonderful and good thing that so few have so much and so many have so little. This is really good. This is the opportunity nation. This is trickle-down economics. This is, those people rising because of meritocracy. It is, to me, a morally bankrupt concept of life, which says, I got it all, I want more, I have more power than anybody else. And by the way, on that issue, Tom, and maybe we can discuss this later, the Koch brothers, who have put hundreds of millions of dollars into the political process supporting right-wing candidates, now want to own the Chicago Tribune media empire. Yeah. So these guys have incredible wealth, incredible power. They want more. It certainly is a disease of greed.
Yeah. Bernie, do you think it would ever be possible to pass legislation that says that media outlets have to have local ownership?
Well, what we have right now, which has been watered down, and we're fighting against the continued watering down, is what we call the concept of cross-ownership. And if you own newspapers in a community, there is a limit to the number of radio or television stations you can own. Now, in fact, what's going on is there is a major effort to water that down, to give Rupert Murdoch, among others, even more media influence in various communities. But we're opposing that. But how you address media consolidation is a huge and very, very important issue.
Yeah. Senator Bernie Sanders is with us, taking your calls in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, a day early, because I'm going to be on an airplane tomorrow. Senator Sanders has been kind enough to come in and do Brunch with Bernie a day early. He'll be taking more of your calls right after this. Welcome back to the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say no, as I will be saying tomorrow night in Portland, Oregon at the Unitarian Church at 7 o'clock. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us, taking your calls a day early. Yes, it's Thursday. We're live, and Bernie is with us. Steve in River Forest, Illinois, listening to WCPT. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator, do you think it would be fair to refer to the sequester as the small government experiment? And if so, why are the Republicans away from their endorsement? They should be in heaven right now.
Well, you're right. Many Republicans, of course, voted for sequestration, but they don't like the results of sequestration when it hits them in the face. They have the theory that you can cut, and nothing bad happens. And suddenly, when we have to lay off a significant number of air controllers and slow down air traffic, oh, wow, how did this happen? What a shock. Or when 70,000 kids are thrown off of Head Start, not that many Republicans worry about that. Oh, my goodness, what a shock. So I think our Republican friends have told us very clearly that they would prefer massive cuts, including cuts in the military, rather than asking the wealthiest people in this country and large corporations to pay a nickel more in taxes. And that is, and I don't know that everybody knows that is the great debate that is taking place right now. In the midst of all of the income and wealth inequality, in the midst of the collapse of the middle class and all of the need that is out there, what our Republican friends are saying, hey, 1 out of 4 corporations pays nothing in taxes. At 12% of profits, corporate taxes today, effective taxes, are the lowest that they've been since 1972. Not a problem. We're prepared to cut. We're prepared to have austerity for working families, but we have got to do everything that we can to protect multinational corporations and the wealthy. That is the issue.
Joan in Owasso, Michigan. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, Senator. I would like to know why President Obama doesn't print money and provide jobs like FDR did. We're in that type of a depression now. And if these corporations don't want to provide this living wage jobs, it's high time our government did.
Joan, I agree with you. I think one of the tragedies of the moment is that all of the focus here in Washington, including primarily the White House, not 100% from the White House, but significantly, is on deficit reduction. Deficit reduction is a real issue. We have got to address it, and I've just suggested a moment ago how we can raise the revenue to address it. But in the midst of all of this, I think what Capitol Hill, what the President, what the Congress is forgetting about is that real unemployment in this country is not 7.6%. It is closer to 14%, including those people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time, people who have given up looking for work. Youth unemployment. You know, Tom, do you know what is happening for young people in this country? People graduating high school, kids graduating college deeply in debt. There's nothing out there for them. Yeah. Unemployment, sky high. What does that mean to a young person as they start to leave home and want to get out in the workforce, want to be independent, want to become adults when they can't go out and find a job? It is a terrible thing for this younger generation. So I think Joan of Michigan is exactly right. We should be creating millions and millions of jobs. And we know how to create those jobs. In Vermont, in Michigan, all over this country, we have an infrastructure which is crumbling: roads, bridges, water systems, schools, rail. We know that we can put people back to work. We have several $1 trillion of unmet needs in our infrastructure. We have to transform our energy system in order to deal with global warming. Wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, that creates jobs. We need more teachers. We need to be creating more teachers, more child care workers, not laying them off. So we know how to create the jobs. Joan is absolutely right. We have a jobs crisis in America, and we have got to address it.
Dennis in St. Anne, Illinois. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders. Dennis? No, Dennis. Ed in Klamath Falls, Oregon. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good day, Senator Sanders.
How are you?
I was wondering if you would be willing to sponsor a bill that only Americans and American corporations can do business in America, and further, that Americans and American corporations must keep their money in American banks to solve that problem of the Mitt Romneys of the world keeping their money overseas.
Well, Ed, I agree with you about the problem. I don't know that in a global economy that's going to be a realistic solution. But I'll tell you what we are working on, and you'd be interested in this, Ed. We have now some examples of billionaires who are giving up their American citizenship because they don't want to pay taxes in this country, and they're moving to countries where they don't have to pay any taxes at all. And we're working on legislation which says to those people who have sold out their own nation, they made their money in America, and now they don't want to pay taxes in America. What we're saying is if you give up your citizenship, and we're working on legislation to do this, guess what? You're not coming back to America. You're not going to go to some other country and then get a visa or get a passport that allows you to come back to the United States. If you want to disown America, you want to leave America to avoid paying taxes, don't come back to this country. I think, Ed, there are a number of ways we have to address the issue of corporations reinvesting in America and not in China. I think your approach is probably not the best way. But the goal has got to be that corporate America, that those folks that want us to buy their products have got to produce those products here in the United States of America and not in China or Vietnam.
And you've been leading the charge in that in some both large ways and small ways, like
yes, we're having some modest success in the Smithsonian museums. We are transforming their gift shops, where they're now going to see more and more American-made products rather than overseas products. And as chairman of the Veterans Administration, we're working on that within the VA as well.
It's marvelous. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's Brunch with Bernie, our national town hall meeting. We're doing it a day early because I'm going to be flying out to Portland tomorrow to give the Marilyn Sewell Speaking of Justice lecture. So your calls for Senator Bernie Sanders in our national town hall meeting today, Thursday, live here on the program. We'll be back with more of your calls for Bernie right after this. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's our Brunch with Bernie, a day early. Here on Thursday, Senator Sanders is with us, taking your calls in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie. And,
Tom, all over America, people think tomorrow is Saturday and they're off of work, and they're going to be very disappointed to learn they have to be at work tomorrow.
Really? Yeah.
But it is Thursday.
It is Thursday, indeed.
Dave, okay, what do we got?
Dave in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. You are on the air with Senator Sanders. Thanks for watching on Free Speech TV on DirecTV.
Thank you for being there. Hi, guys. I'm a business school graduate, and it seems to me that this culture of greed that you were talking about earlier, Bernie, is being perpetuated by the money flowing into these business schools, assuring that each generation that comes out of there has the same culture as the old guys who set the curriculum, actually, by pouring money into these schools. And I just wonder what you thought about that. If there's I don't think there's anything you can do about it legislatively, but I know damn well it's happening.
Dave, I think you're absolutely right. I think, what people have got to appreciate is the folks who have the money, the folks whose religion, in fact, is greed. They don't just put their money under their mattresses. I mentioned earlier, the Koch brothers is an example of one of the most powerful right-wing families in America. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars trying to elect candidates that will support their interests. They're now interested in buying the Chicago Tribune, a media empire, which consists of many, many newspapers and television stations in order to influence America. But as Dave indicates, these guys put huge amounts of money into universities and into business schools. They endow chairs to give a right-wing ideology. And what's particularly sad, and I suspect Dave would agree with me, is we've had some great business people in our country, and have them today. People who see their function as to produce good products, provide good services, pay their workers a decent wage, make profits. Profits is not a dirty word. But you can do those things, create jobs, without extolling greed, and more for the people on top. But I think Dave's point is very well. These guys endow business schools. They set up all of these think tanks to help espouse their points of view. So I would agree with Dave.
Robert in Joliet, Illinois, listening to WCPT. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
How you doing, Senator Sanders and Tom? Just to add on to that last comment, and they're even buying up publishing companies like McGraw-Hill and changing history in general. But what I wanted to say is, I feel like as a Democrat that we kind of need to either change the party by getting involved, or just to stand behind like-minded independents like Senator Bernie Sanders. And I wanted to get you guys' comment on that. Do you feel like it's time for that, since recently President Obama has backed up Big Pharma and given them more, I should say, immunity from giving them more control of their patents? And I think that I feel like the administration is turning their back on us with doing so, giving more immunity to corporations and such.
Well, Robert, thanks for the question. I think it's a very, very important question. And I respond to you as the longest-serving independent in the history of the United States Congress, 16 years in the House, and now I'm in my 7th year in the Senate. Look, this is what you got. You have the Republican Party now is a right-wing extremist party dominated by the Tea Party. You have folks in that party who, will go to the wall protecting the wealthiest, the most powerful people in this country, while they will destroy Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, etc. You have a Democratic Party which has also moved to the right. I think years ago, certainly under FDR, under Harry Truman, the Democratic Party was considered to be the party of working people. I'm not sure that most people think that it is anymore because, as Tom and I have discussed for a very long time, the big money interests have so much influence, and it's not just over the Republican Party, it's over the Democratic Party as well. So you see Democratic presidents, whether it's Bill Clinton, and I thought Clinton was a decent president, but let's not forget, when we talk about trade policies, it was Clinton who signed NAFTA. It was under Clinton that we deregulated Wall Street, led by his Secretary of Treasury, Robert Rubin. Under Obama, we're continuing these bad trade policies. Under Obama, we have not stood up to Wall Street and moved forward to breaking up these large financial institutions that have so much power. Under Obama, there's a proposal out there that calls for cutting Social Security. So I think, Robert, the big money interest has so much power that they have enormous influence on economic issues over both political parties. And I would hope that people who want the Democratic Party to be a party that represents the average person, that person in the middle class, lower income people, working people, elderly people, that they have got to demand that the president and members of Congress stand with them. And right now, the issue that I am focusing on is the so-called chain CPI. It is totally absurd that this president of the United States is bringing forth a proposal that would cut benefits for seniors between the age of 65 and 75. That's $650 a year by the time you're 75. That is a lot of money for somebody getting by on $15,000 a year. The president should not be doing that. He should be listening. I'll give you an example of something which was rather remarkable. There was a poll that just came out the other day, Tom, and it came out from the Gallup poll. And this is what it said. This is just last week. A record-breaking 52% of the American people believe that the federal government, and I quote, should redistribute wealth by heavy taxes on the rich, end of quote.
Wow.
Now, Tom, how many Democrats out there do you think that the government should redistribute wealth by heavy taxes on the rich?
It's not. Nobody's saying it out loud.
Nobody even talks about it.
Yeah.
You have a handful of us, and we have some wonderful people in the House Progressive Caucus, people like Keith Ellison, Raul Grijalva, and others, many others there. We got a few people in the Senate. This is what a majority of the American people believe. And the average Democrat wouldn't even vaguely go near that. So to get back to the point that Robert made, yes, Robert, I think people have got to get involved in the political process and tell Democrats, you're not going to cut Social Security. And if you do, you know what? You may find primary opposition next time around. But we have got to at least have one party or a section of a party standing up for working families.
Phil in Franklinville, New Jersey, listening on Sirius Satellite Radio. You're on the air with Senator Sanders, Phil.
Hey, how you doing, Sanders?
Good.
I have a question. Now, I hear that you said that these people, the big corporation, put their money over in the Cayman Islands. And I was wanted to know, is there any kind of way that you can have them bring that money back? Because the reason why I asked that question, I heard today that AT&T got hundreds of billions of dollars over there in the Cayman Islands, somewhere over there, but yet they want to borrow $100 billion to pay their investors. You know what I mean? Instead of using their money over there because they're gonna get taxed. You know, and I like what you said earlier, that y'all was working on a bill that if somebody takes their money out of what's coming, they give up their citizens. I agree with that 100%. You know what I mean? Because I don't think it's fair that they could take their money, put it over there in the Cayman Islands, and then want to borrow money. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, Phil, here's what we're doing. To answer your question, the answer is absolutely, and I've introduced legislation to do that. Right now, we are losing about $100 billion every single year. That is a huge amount of money. That will, help us in a very significant way, not only deal with the deficit, but to create the jobs that we need by investing in infrastructure. $100 billion every year just by companies who are stashing their money in the Cayman Islands and elsewhere. We have introduced legislation to end that. It is totally absurd that they're allowed to do that and not pay any taxes in the United States on very, very substantial profits. So, Phil, the answer to your question is yes, there is something we can do. I've proposed ideas. Other people have different ideas. It's something we must do.
Tony in Knoxville, Tennessee. Quick question for Bernie. We got a minute to the break. Tony?
Yes, sir.
A quick question, please. We just have a few seconds.
Yes, sir. Senator, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Somebody up there in Washington's got some sense anyway. The question I had was, is there any way that you could get with a couple other senators or congressmen and draft legislation to fix Social Security by the government having to pay back what they took out of it year after year after year with 1.5% interest, and then get a vote on that, and then we'd know who was really serious about fixing Social Security?
Okay, Tony, let me answer your. I guess, Tom, we going to a break?
Yeah, about half a minute.
All right, let me just start off, and we'll deal with Tony's very good question. Tony, here is the fact. Don't believe everything you see on TV. Social Security today has a $2.6 trillion surplus. Surplus. No one disputes that. Well, we'll return to this issue after the break.
Okay. It is 45 minutes past the hour. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, our Brunch with Bernie hour, our national town hall meeting with Senator Bernie Sanders, answering your questions. Check out his website over at sanders.senate.gov. Yeah, it's a day early, by the way. You're not hearing a rerun. We are live, and we'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And be sure to check out Bernie's website over at sanders.senate.gov. There's a lot of great information there, and you can sign up for the Bernie Buzz for his newsletter. So, Senator Sanders, do you want to pick up on that Social Security question?
Yes, Tony asked a good question about Social Security. There's just so much misunderstanding out there. And the media, in many cases, just perpetuates it. When you hear these guys say, "Well, Social Security is going broke," so let me be the first to tell you, Social Security is not going broke. $2.6 trillion surplus, according to the Social Security Administration. Tony, nobody disputes that. Social Security could pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for the next 20 years. Nobody disputes that. Social Security is not in crisis. The challenge is that we want Social Security to be good, not just for the next 20 years, but for the next 75 years. How do you do that? Well, the way you do that is right now, Tony, somebody makes $10 million a year. They contribute the same amount into the Social Security Trust Fund as somebody makes $113,000. You lift that cap. And you could even start at $250,000, but lift that cap so that millionaires now contribute more into the system. The system is strong between 50 and 75 years, and that is what some of us are trying to do. Now, in terms of what does Social Security do with their surplus? Do they put it under their mattress? No, they don't. They invest it in government bonds, and one of the significant sources of revenue coming into the Social Security Trust Fund is not just everybody's contribution in the payroll tax, but money they're making from Treasury bonds and the interest that is bringing into the fund.
So the right-wing lie has been because the money is invested in Treasury bonds. Treasury bonds are...
It is the most absurd argument. Here's the absurd argument. Yeah. Here's the argument. That the right-wing uses. The United States has a large debt. Therefore, because we have we're in debt, that there is really nothing in the Social Security Trust Fund. It's not there. The problem is we have debt to people all over the world. We have debt to Social Security, but the faith and credit of the United States of America is such that we have never yet defaulted on our debt. Yes, we have to lower our national debt. But just because we are in debt does not mean to say we're not going to pay our debts to people who own Treasury bonds, whether it is other countries, whether it is individuals, or whether it is Social Security. It is a totally bogus argument.
Right. And just because the government is spending money, deficit spending, which we've been doing continuously since the George Washington administration, does not mean that we're taking that money away from Social Security.
No.
It is. We have just a minute for the break here. There's not
a debate on this, Tom. There is not a debate on it. It really bothers me when people say Social Security is going bankrupt. It's just fallacious. Call up the Social Security Administration. Get on the phone. I suspect it's on their website.
Right.
Social Security has a $2.6 trillion surplus, pays out benefits for roughly the next 20 years, at which point, by the way, it will be able to pay out between 75, I think, and 80% of all benefits. We got to deal with that 20% gap, and we can do that by lifting the cap on taxable income.
Right. We just have about 30 seconds here before the break here. Well, no, here it comes right now. So we'll pick up our next call right after this. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour, our national town hall meeting, a day early here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be right back. This show is underwritten in part by Aeroside. Better air, better life. Aeroside Air Purifier, developed by NASA, clears the air of harmful gases, household chemicals, mold, viruses, and bacteria. More information at the Aeroside banner on ThomHartmann.com or 800-361-7591. Welcome back to the place where despair is not an option, the Thom Hartmann Program. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour, a day early. Senator Sanders taking your calls in our National Town Hall meeting. Pam in Falls Church, Virginia. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Senator Sanders. Thank you so much for all your work. I wanted to ask whether there is any kind of government agency that has or is currently tracking or keeping record online or elsewhere of American companies and manufacturers that are sending jobs overseas and their operations overseas. And I agree with both of you regarding the influence of the corporate media. So many people we know just don't seem to be aware of current issues like the dangers of fracking, Monsanto Corporation, our foods, and the Keystone Pipeline. And thank you for all your efforts, and visited your lovely state, Lower Vermont, Putney, and Brattleboro recently after a long absence. Thank you so much.
Great, and please come back. Thank you very much, Pam. And you've asked a very good question. And the answer is we do have information about companies that are moving jobs abroad. What we know, and I'm looking at an article that was just recently published, since 1999, Pam, employment by U.S. multinationals is down by 1.1 million inside the United States. They have shrunk their workforce inside the United States since 1999 by 1.1 million, but it is up in that same time period by 3.8 million people overseas. So multinational corporations shrunk their workforce here in the United States. They've significantly expanded abroad. As I think many listeners know, I have been strongly opposed to these trade agreements that have come down the pike for many, many years, from NAFTA to CAFTA to permanent normal trade relations with China, free trade agreements with Korea. And the bottom line of those trade agreements is that American workers are being forced to compete against people around the world earning wages substantially lower than we make in the United States. And the result of that has been that companies, and in the last 10 years, we've lost over 50,000 factories in America. Not all of them due to trade, but many of them due to trade. And as we've just heard, companies much prefer to hire people in China and Vietnam at very low wages than an American worker at a decent wage. So that is an enormously significant issue, and we do have some pretty good information on that, Pam.
Truman in Hoopeston, Illinois. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes. Can you hear me?
You're on the air, sir.
Hey, Senator was on there asking questions or answering questions or what have you. And my question is, if the government would quit putting out that money to help the oil companies and get them to reduce the gas prices, people like myself would have more money in my pocket for lower gas prices, and I would spend that money because probably 90% of the people that work live from paycheck to paycheck. Therefore, they're going to spend money and when they got it in their pockets.
Well, Truman, very good point. And I absolutely agree with you. It's an issue we have been involved in. So let me take a minute to talk a little bit about why prices are as high as they are. And by the way, prices are going down. I know in Vermont they're going down fairly significantly. First thought, Truman, you will be shocked to know the theory, and Tom, you and I have discussed this, the theory of why prices go up is that when supply is limited and demand goes up, why then prices naturally go up. That's what you learned in high school. Unfortunately, that theory does not seem to apply to gas and oil prices, because over the last number of years we have had ample supply, and in the United States demand has actually gone down for a variety of reasons, and yet price spiked way up. There are a number of reasons why gas prices are as high as they are, and we don't know it definitively. For a start, companies like ExxonMobil and the other large oil companies have a very significant control over the market. They are enormously profitable year after year after year. These companies are ripping off consumers, making billions and billions of dollars in profit. That's number one, the oil companies. Number two, this will surprise people, the culprit is not just the oil companies. We got our good friends in Wall Street right now who own most of the oil on the oil futures market, the energy futures market. These companies don't use oil. They're not like trucking companies. They're not like airlines. They're not like fuel dealers. They are strictly in the market to drive profits up, prices up, and make a quick profit. We have hyper speculation in extensive speculation in the oil futures market, which people disagree as to how much it increases the price of a gallon of gas. Is it 20%, 25%? No one's quite sure. But it sure as heck does drive oil prices up. And thirdly, and I've been dealing with this issue back in the state of Vermont, there are parts of states where there really is not vigorous competition between gas stations. What one gas station does is look at another one and says, oh, you're charging $3.50 for a gallon of gas. Well, that's what I'll charge. We have seen in northern Vermont, for example, where you focus a spotlight on this and these guys start competing, prices can go down to a significant degree. So those are the three areas by which I think consumers are getting ripped off. The oil companies, excessive profits, Wall Street speculating on the oil futures market, and in some parts of the country, not a whole lot of competition between the distributors and gas stations.
Bernie, just a half a minute till the end of the hour here. Oh, not even that. I'm going to have to thank you. Senator Sanders, thanks so much for being with us this week and for coming in a day early.
Well, my pleasure, Tom. Keep up the good work.
You too, sir. Thank you.